So we've placed this glass curtain wall in place here, and if I hover over the top of it, you can see what appears to be a straight line is actually a curved glass curtain wall. The reason why it's straight is that at the moment there are only two grid lines where mullions could go. One is at the end and one is at the other end. So straight pieces of glass would go from mullion to mullion, and therefore we've got a straight segment through there. Now as we place more mullions along here, it'll start taking on this curved shape. Before we do though, however, I'm just going to go to a 3D view, and in my 3D view, first of all, I'm going to place a horizontal transom, which Revit calls a mullion anyway. So we put a curtain grid in to start with, and then along one of these vertical edges, I'll just click somewhere around about there and click on the dimension text, and we'll make that 900 high. So that could be a bottom panel, so that desks inside the reception area could be up against. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to hover over the glass curtain wall and tab until I select just the lower panel. And the lower panel, I'm going to change the element type, drop that down, and it's going to be system panel solid is the one I want to use. So I want to put a solid system panel in the bottom there. But we haven't changed the properties of the solid system panel. At the moment it's a big thick panel as well. Let me make that out there. So what we'll do is we'll hover over it again and tab until we select just the bottom panel, and go up to its properties, element properties, and edit the type. And this is where we wanted to make the offset the same as our glazing panel, 50mm, and the thickness of the glass was 6mm. Now this won't be a glass panel now, this will be a solid panel of the same thickness, so it could be something like a Lucabond as an aluminium sandwich panel that would take the place of a piece of glass and could still fit in the glass curtain wall frame. Okay, so I want to divide that up into 12 equal segments now. So I'll once again go curtain grid, and then I'll try and find the midpoint here. If I hover long enough along where I think the midpoint is, it'll snap. And if the tooltip doesn't come up saying midpoint, cast your eye to the bottom left hand corner of the screen, and we can see that's the midpoint of the curtain panel. And you can see now the glass has started to bend shape. So if I was to do this in thirds now, 1/3 of curtain panel, and then the midpoint of the remaining bit that's midpoint of curtain panel, and then if I was to divide those into midpoints, so midpoint, and midpoint, and midpoint. And if I do the same on the other side now, we do 1/3, so somewhere in about there's the 2/3, and then the midpoint of that, and it looks like about there, and then midpoint, and the midpoint, and the midpoint. So each time we're dividing this curtain wall, and it's taking on this curved shape as the grids go in to line it up. So now I can start placing my mullion command here. The mullion type is not the louver now. We have to select that back and go back to our rectangular mullion. And we'll do, that would have been the head. This would be the transom, and this would be the sill. But to Revit, they're all mullions. They're all the same shape. And so now I will do the vertical mullions, and we've established a glass curtain wall. And just orbit for the next one. Orbit around, zoom out again, and I should be able to then keep that last one in place there. So that's the glass curtain wall there. Now the reason why I established the transom first is because we've now established that we first of all established the one whole bottom section as a solid panel, and then as it got split up it divided it into separate panels. If we had have put the transom in last, we'd have to now go back and hover over, tab through, and select each panel separately and change that panel to solid. But because we did it in that order, we've now got all of that done in one go. Okay, alright, so that's to that stage now, the glass panel. You should now be able to finish off the rest of the glass curtain walls upstairs. There's a few glass curtain walls upstairs and a couple of them downstairs there. You should be able to go ahead and do those on your own. If you go back to massing and site and click show mass, you can see that there's some more glass curtain walls that we've got to address on that mass. So it's simply a matter of doing the model by face wall. Make sure you're using curtain wall 1, and then you can select these individual faces, and so on and so forth. I'll just have to tab through. There we go. I'm not quite selecting it at the moment. I'll just have a look. I'll turn off massing and site. I'll turn off show mass. And yes, I've selected that one, but I've got to try and select the other one. So you can do the same sort of thing then, and then once you've got that selected, once you've got that curtain wall done, back on to home, and once again you can place curtain grids, horizontal and vertical curtain grids. So I'll leave you do that on your own. So we'll stop the video at this stage.